This is the final part of the project where you have to do actual real-time fraud detection. And to do that, you'll have to verify each transaction for fraud using rule-based filtering. Typically, it is done using machine learning, but in some cases, rule-based filtering also works, wherein you are using, let's say, a distributed processing system like Spark. The assumption here is that transaction will only be for 100 customers. The number of customers that are there in the customer data file, all the transactions would belong to those 100 customers only. And this is the structure of the file which has to be used for real-time transactions. And there are 10 files with 10,000 records each, meaning that you have a total of 1 million records of such transactions or such data. This is the schema of the transaction record or real-time transaction record, meaning whenever a customer is doing any transaction, it will be captured, or the data would be captured using this format. Of course, we do not have any real-time application. We do not have any online application wherein customer can do it in reality. So that's why I have put those in files. And you have to use a Kafka producer to read the records one by one and send it to a Kafka topic. You can name the Kafka topic as per your choice. And I would recommend that either you use multiple programs to read from all the files together, or you can use multi-threading also. And I would also recommend that you give a longer pause just to verify whether your rule-based filtering is working or not. After it is sent to the Kafka topic, meaning after each transaction with this record format is sent to the Kafka topic, then PySpark streaming would capture the record from the Kafka topic and do some processing. How the processing would be done, that I'll tell you in the next slide. But once the processing is done, you'd find out whether the transaction can be fraud or not, whether it can be a potential fraud or not. If it is a potential fraud transaction, then you have to write it in two different places. One is the Iceberg Lakehouse and the other one is another Kafka topic. So I'll have to write it to Iceberg on S3, and then you have to use another Kafka topic to send the fraudulent transaction. Once you write it to a Lakehouse, try to read those records using Spark SQL. From the Kafka topic, you can read using a Kafka consumer, a Python program, and maybe you can send a SMS to your phone. You can do that. There's a Python library which can be used to send SMS to your phone. That can be done also. And you can make a call to your phone also. That can also be done. So you can test this out. You can go ahead and look at the Python library that I'm talking about, or you can search in Google what Python library you can use to send SMS or make a call to your phone from Python. So this is how the architecture is, and if there is no fraud, then it has to be written to the console. Now, if you see here, from the PySpark program, you'll have to write to three different places. One is the Lakehouse using Iceberg open table format. Second is the Kafka topic, and third is the console. If the transaction is fraudulent or it has a potential to be a fraud transaction, then you'll have to write it to both Lakehouse and Kafka topic. If not, then only you'll write it to the console. Now, how do you find out, or how do you decide whether a transaction is fraud or not? First, you'll have to find the risk score for transactions. If you remember, I asked you to create a Kelsey risk score table, and that table would be used here extensively. And each transaction that you are getting from the Kafka topic should be run against all the risk rules and find out the number of rules it qualifies. And then you have to find out the weighted risk score. What I mean by that, this is the risk score table and there are 10 rules. Obviously, there can be more than 10 rules because each rule is having multiple data points. So for this single rule, we'll be having 3 rows. So you can name it as 1A, 1B, 1C. For this one, it would be 5 rows for a single rule. So you can name it as 2A, 2B, 2C, 2E. Similarly, all the other rules also. Now, each transaction that you get from the Kafka topic has to be validated against all these rules. And if the transaction qualifies any of the rules, then you'll have to take some actions. And this is the action. This is an example that I have given. Now let's take an example. Let's say there's a transaction 1 which qualifies for rule number 1 with score 7, rule number 2 with score 5, rule number 5 with score 8, and rule number 8 with score 7. It can be rule 1A, 1B, 1C also. If a particular transaction qualifies for multiple rules, then the weightage would be a little different. If the qualification is for a single rule, then the weightage would be a little different. And the formula is like this. Now, in this example, let's say one transaction has qualified for 4 rules, right? So in the step 1, you'll have to find out how many rules it has qualified. If it has qualified 4 rules, then the maximum risk value for those 4 rules would be 4 into 10. 4 into 10 because 10 is the highest risk score. So the maximum risk value would be 40, as there are only 4 rules or 4 rule qualification. If a transaction qualifies for, let's say, 8 rules, then the max risk value would be 80. So this is the maximum risk value then you have to find out. In step number 2, we'll have to find out the total risk value for that transaction. So max risk value is not the actual risk value. You'll have to find out the actual risk value, and you can do that by adding all the risk scores. Now in this case, transaction 1 has qualified for 4 rules and the scores are different. For rule 1 score is 7, for rule 2 score is 5, for rule 5 score is 8, and for rule 8 score is 7. Now why you can have different scores in different rules? For that, we'll have to look back to the risk score table again. So you see, let's take example of this one. If the transaction is a cross-country transaction and it has been done from credit card with 5-year count more than 10, meaning number of cross-country transactions from credit card over the last 5 years, if that is more than 10, then the risk score would be 7. If the number of cross-country transactions using credit card in the last 5 years is more than 15, then the risk score would be 8. Let's take another example where there are multiple values. These are pretty straightforward. Let's take this one. Distance from base is more than 25 kilometers using POS machine, ATM or P2P transaction type, with amount more than 15%, 20%, 25% and 30% of account balance. So let's say the distance where the transaction has happened is more than 25 kilometers and the transaction type is either POS, ATM or P2P, and the transaction amount is, let's say, 15% of the account balance. So in that case, risk score would be 5. If the transaction has been done using ATM and the distance of the transaction from the base location is more than 25 kilometers and the amount is more than 15% of the account balance, then also the risk score would be 5. Let's take another example. Let's say it's a P2P transaction and the distance is, let's say, 40 kilometers and the transaction amount is more than 30% of the account balance. In that case, the risk score would be 8. So this is how you would calculate the risk score. And those are the risk scores that I have mentioned here. You'll have to do that calculation or you'll have to match the transaction which are being sent in the Kafka topic. You have to run those against all those rules and let's say you come up with these scores. So the actual risk value would be addition of all these scores because there are 4 rules where the transaction has qualified. So the summation would be 7 plus 5 plus 8 plus 7 because it is 7, then 5, then 8 and then 7 with a total value of 27. So the final risk score of the transaction would be 27 by 40 into 10, which is 6.75. So this is how we can find out the risk score of the actual transaction which is being sent to the Kafka topic. So we pick up the record, do mix and match with the calculate risk score table which you already did a pre-aggregation earlier, and based on the filter that I mentioned here or based on the filter that is mentioned in the table, you'll have to come up with the score and then you'll have to add the score and the maximum risk value and find out the risk score for the transaction. So this is how you find out the risk score and what action you take. If the risk score is more than 6, then you'll have to send to the Kafka topic that I have shown you and write to the Iceberg table with an SMS notification flag. So it can be any record saying that this is the transaction, this is the customer, this is the amount. It has a potential to be a fraud transaction. It might not be that dangerous, so that's why the notification flag would be only for SMS. If the final risk score for the transaction is more than 7, you'll have to send it to both Kafka topic and Iceberg with call notification flag. And from there, you can write a Kafka consumer that I've shown you in the previous slide This is the Kafka consumer. You'll have to send it to the Kafka topic from PySpark. And if it is an SMS flag, then you can use this Kafka consumer to send the notification in your phone. If it is a call flag, then you can use the same Kafka consumer to make a call to your phone. Again, you can choose not to do so also. If you want, you can do it. But at least send it to the Kafka topic. That is the minimum requirement. If it is more than 8, then you'll have to send both call and SMS notification. If it is more than 9, then you'll have to decline the transaction. You'll have to send it to Kafka topic and write to the Iceberg table with decline notification flag, meaning that the transaction has been declined. So this is the first rule of fraud detection. And this is an important one because we already have calculated the risk score, and now we are calibrating the risk score against each transaction that is being sent to the Kafka topic from the Kafka producer. You have to apply the first rule. Then you have the second rule, and in the second rule you have to match only for transaction amount. And in this rule you'll have to refer the last year aggregation table that we have created. And it says that if the transaction amount is more than YTD max yearly transaction amount, then you'll have to use decline flag. If it is within average and maximum of YTD yearly transaction amount, but more than YTD max monthly transaction amount, then call and SMS notification has to be sent to Kafka and Iceberg. And there are other rules also. So these are the two rules that you have to implement in your PySpark program, and the transaction will only be allowed if it does not fall in any of the rules. If, let's say, in the previous rule, none of the transaction falls in the previous rule, in rule number 1, but the transaction falls in rule number 2, even then the corresponding action has to be taken. Same is true is the other way around also. If a transaction falls in rule number 2 but does not fall under rule number 1, even then the corresponding action has to be taken. It can be SMS flag, call flag, decline transaction, etc. And transaction should only be allowed when all combinations of rule 1 and rule 2 pass, meaning a transaction does not follow or does not fall in any of these rules. That means that's a clear transaction and it does not have the potential to become or be a fraud transaction. Then only the transaction should be allowed. So as I said, it is a very comprehensive project and the logic and implementation would also be complex. The reason is it is at the end of the entire course, so you might have practiced all the APIs, all the SQLs, you know the nook and corner of Spark. That's why I'm giving you something complex to implement using Spark batch processing and stream processing and Kafka all. And not only that, final end-to-end architecture would be like this on AWS. We'll be practicing cloud also. The files should be on S3. We have account data, customer data, transaction data, and all these files should be on S3. And Spark or PySpark should run on EMR. So you'll have to read from these files and load it to Aurora MySQL table. EMR would be common across because PySpark would be used in all the cases. So you have to read these files and write it to Aurora MySQL tables. From there, you'll have to read again using PySpark in batch fashion and write it to multiple Redshift tables. And some of the tables have to be created from Redshift itself. So I think calculate risk score has to be created by reading transaction history count, geography, etc. Then you have the stream processing. The JSON files, the JSON stream files, not the account files. The transaction files would be on your laptop. The Kafka producer would also be on your laptop, but from your laptop, you'll have to send it to MSK, which is AWS's managed Kafka service. And then you'll have to use PySpark stream to do the processing and again send it back to Kafka topic, also to Iceberg, which would be on S3. So this is the end-to-end architecture would be, and as I mentioned earlier also, it is not going to be a simple one. It is a complex implementation, but if you can do it all by yourself, you can consider yourself between intermediate and expert for sure. I think you might be an expert also. Few considerations. What about data pipelines? So think of the data pipelines for this entire project. You'll have to load data from files to RDBMS tables. You'll have to extract records from RDBMS tables, transform it and load it to data warehouse. Same thing has to be done from data warehouse to data warehouse also. Now, I am giving you only limited number of files, but in production environment, this would be continuous, right? You'll be getting the files in continuous fashions. You'll have to do the extract, transform, and load maybe on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. So there has to be multiple data pipelines which have to be created. And also, as there are tables that contain count, aggregation for the last 1 year to 5 years, these tables have to be loaded regularly to keep the data latest, or these tables have to be refreshed on a regular basis, maybe once a month, once a quarter. That would depend on your production use case or your production workload. Last year aggregation table has a weekly aggregation columns also, which means that this table should be refreshed at least once a week. Then you have to have a continuous streaming pipeline also. So this project gives you end-to-end view of how a data pipeline, which includes both batch processing and stream processing, looks like. This is just a small component of the financial system, which is financial fraud detection. This fraud detection implementation that I'm asking you to implement is not very complex. I mean, in real life, the rules would be way more complex. But if you can implement this all by yourself, as I said, you can consider yourself anywhere between intermediate to expert. So please go ahead and complete this project using the datasets that I have provided. Once you are done, then I'll ask you to implement a recommendation engine also, which is the next project.